Are you a mom who loves fun, momming, and protecting your family? If you want to meet some of the most amazing people from all over the gun world and beyond, you are in the right place. Tune in for encouragement and sometimes just courage for moms and women just like you, who are curious about shooting but are intimidated or just don't know where to start. Hey, all you tough mothers. I have a special guest here, Mike Mills, an old friend of mine. We've known each other for, 20 years. Mike is a ex-Army Ranger, current police officer, and the host of Tactical Considerations. I just wanted to introduce you to Mike because he's got some really cool perspective. He's a lot of fun, and I just wanted to share with you guys Mike's awesomeness. So Mike, kind of what got you into like the whole shooting, or actually why'd you even join the military in the first place? And then we'll go through into like why you got into shooting.
Okay, so you grew up the family and there was always guns around, stuff like that. We were kind of an urban family, but years and years ago, pretty much everybody had guns. A lot of family history in the military. So I knew I was going to be going in at some point in some branch of the military. And my thing was just seeing what was going on in the world at the time, and that like mid 90s, late 90s, all the things with Black Hawk Down and all that kind of led me to go into the Army and get into the Rangers. Uh, that basically just opened up the world of guns like you would never believe, because you have access to like legitimately everything from, grenade launchers, fully automatic crew serve weapons, belt fed machine gun, anything you'd want to play with as a kid that watched GI Joe. So
Basically it wasn't service. It was just the really cool toys.
Well, that was just a good part of it. So it was a lot of fun, did that. And people don't want to, I guess, admit it or realize it. America is a gun culture. This country was founded on rebellion to an extent, taxation without representation, fight for your rights, all those things, which is why there are two very important and well-placed amendments in the Constitution, the first and the second, right? And they kind of go hand in hand. And once one goes, generally the other is not far behind it.
That makes sense. And so then after the military, you kind of went into the police department, and kind of like, has that changed like your feelings about gun ownership with civilians?
If anything, it makes me want to see every civilian carry a firearm. So being in Arizona is totally different than places like California on the East Coast, where it's like super restrictive. And it always bothers me because I see guns used in appropriate manners every day. I've seen self-defense actions with them. I've seen them stop crimes. I've seen them involved in crimes. But we're not out there banning cars because of the mass amount of accidents and casualties that causes. But I also see what happens to people when they're not able to defend themselves appropriately. And that is something that is, difficult when someone has the ability to defend themselves if they had the right tools. So being in law enforcement and having seen all that stuff, 99.999% of people that go and purchase a firearm are never going to use that in a crime. In fact, statistical studies will show you concealed carry permit holders are some of the most law-abiding citizens in the United States. So there's just a lot of rhetoric and a lot of stuff, and people always look for something to blame or someone to blame. And that's just a tool that they blame. Look at Europe. They got rid of the guns and now they've got a knife problem. You get shanked every other corner, and there's big knife bins everywhere on the corner to get rid of mom's kitchen knife that you went to rob a liquor store with.
So if you take the knives down, now we got the forks, and now we're just going to move straight on to like chopsticks or something.
Yeah,
I think big chopstick is behind all of this.
And it is, because if you think about it, if you look at the real numbers, the FBI statistics, and this stuff is out there, anybody can look it up. The number of firearms used in actual crimes for like homicide and stuff like that, it's below 10,000 once you start taking out suicides, which is a tragedy, right? But there's the fork and the spoon, and heart and diabetes and all this stuff kills a lot. Doctors kill more people every year by sticking the wrong catheter in them than guns do. Let's just be realistic. Medical malpractice deaths are tenfold what gun deaths are. It's just crazy.
Mothers against doctors.
Yeah, start that one. See how that goes.
I think that'll go like a lead balloon.
Probably very much so.
All right. So why did you start Tactical Considerations, and what is Tactical Considerations?
So that company started almost as kind of a dare. So somebody basically said something about, well, you have this, why don't you spread that information or whatever, because it's all about teaching. So throughout my time in the military, throughout my time in law enforcement in the private sector and at local colleges, I've taught, whether it's law enforcement stuff or defensive tactics, ground fighting, firearms. I've always taught everything. Knowledge is a gift. You're supposed to share that. And that's part of the problem we're running into now is people just don't know, and they know so little they don't even know what they don't know, to rob a phrase from George Bush or Donald Rumsfeld or whoever said it back in the day. I kind of started it to, one, help guide people in the right direction and kind of put some of that positive light on it, because there's a lot of people that do a lot of stupid things out there and post TikTok videos and Instagram videos, and you all see the train wreck video, and that goes so much further than good quality content or good quality information. And there's a lot of people out there. You've got 20 million new gun owners or 20 million new guns sold in the past 2 years because people are outright saying in the federal government, we want to take your rights away and we don't care what you feel about it. So that's led to a rush, especially in the female and especially the minority and Black community, an explosion of gun ownership by good, solid, law-abiding citizens that just don't know. They don't know sometimes even how to load the thing. And we laugh about it because me and you we're used to it, right? I mean, it's like second nature to me. I can pick up almost any weapon system and figure it out, even if I've never seen it before. There are people that literally don't know how to chamber a round in their pistol or their rifle. And there's also on the backside of that an explosion of really bad instructors. People that went to the Rex Kwon Do 8-hour program and behold, instructor extraordinaire, and they teach weird things. So on the other side of that, I do help with some R&D and stuff like that. And it's just fun. It's fun to go out and test these things and, do good stuff with it and spread that information. And sometimes it ends up good. Sometimes the products end up bad. Sometimes the gun is just not that great. And you tell people to stay away from it. So it's just a little bit to help. It's a lot of fun. And then of course it's a business, that's obviously you have to run it and treat it like a business because you've got cameras and audio and thousands of dollars in ammo and equipment, everything else out there on the range. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, that's really exciting. And I completely agree with you on like the whole, I think the stat, from, I don't know, like the ATF was like 21 million new gun owners in 2020 alone. 60% were women, most of which, like you said, were, women, Black females or like minority owned firearms. And I think a lot of that was, people went out and just started panic buying stuff. So they went out and they're like, I got to protect myself. I got to protect my family. So I'm going to go buy a gun, 3,000 rolls of toilet paper, 17 gallons of hand sanitizer, and I'm good. But then when push comes to shove, or they get, scared, or there was like, some kind of like civil uprising or like riots, they didn't know what to do. And I personally got calls from my neighbors saying like, we're really scared. Like there was some misinformation going around that like rioters were going to come up into our neighborhood. And they called me and they said, well, will you come over and show me how to load the gun? And I'm like, this is not the right time for a crash course in loading the gun. I mean, you're going to hurt yourself or your family. You're kind of better off just with a bat. And that was really scary. So I think there needs to be a kind of a bigger push of people that are kind of demystifying it and making it less intimidating. And no offense, like you are kind of the epitome of the hoo-ah guy that's out there. So I think your regular soccer mom might watch those videos and go, this terrified, just absolutely terrified. And I want to like break down that barrier and say like, you are not this terrifying person. You are actually a delightful person. And that you want to like help women kind of like get into that field as well.
Yeah. And there's actually a lady I work with, Carrie, who owns I think her Instagram is We the Female. And she's a domestic violence survivor, an assault survivor, very, very well ingrained in the firearms community, does national events. And that's a lot of what she practices on and stuff like that, specifically dealing with victims, because that's a whole different animal. And to the point of, someone that was like, come show me how to load this gun. There's, like I said, there's people that just don't know. And there's time. Training is not always cheap. Good training is really not cheap. And part of that is people have certain ideas because they've seen shows like Preppers on History Channel, things like that. And the two biggest things I tell people is if you think you're going to make it somewhere, should that scenario actually occur, I will be picking up your ammo off your carcass. The best thing you can do is stay where you're at and defend your position, because people want it. We all love the videos of dudes going in rooms and going loud and there's breaching and banging and explosions. Well, at least guys do. That's the most dangerous way to do anything. If you're entering into somebody else's environment, and this goes to those riots that were going on, people were going out in the streets, stay in your home, lay there in your home with all of your good stuff around you. If somebody wants to come in, that's the time you defend yourself, whatever your state law is applicable, right? But the worst thing you can do is think you're going to be super tier one guy, clearing buildings, clearing rooms. Only time you should ever be doing something like that is if you are going to rescue a family member to bring them into your safe area, because then if somebody comes to you, they're at the disadvantage. Because a lot of people get that confused. It's like, if you have a gun, you're better off with having some supplies and just staying in your house than venturing out into the world and trying to walk around like it's a TV show or something, because that doesn't end well. I mean, look at the past 2 years of riots and buildings burning and everything else. So
yeah, I think just as a woman, like I don't have any military training. I don't have any, I have some training, which has been extremely high level training, which I really appreciate. Thank you for the recommendation. But even then, because I conceal carry, my primary objective would be defend myself, get myself, like whatever situation it is, neutralize that situation and get out. Like I don't want to be a cowboy. I don't want to go out there and create a situation that's even worse. I just want to protect myself, get my son, myself, my family out of that situation as quickly as possible.
This is what I tell people anytime I'm training people on firearms or self-defense or anything, is there's like the three golden rules, right? My mom used to say this: you catch more bees with honey than vinegar, right? Don't go looking for a fight or you're going to find one. And generally people that look for fights end up on the losing end of them. Be the bigger person, walk away. Somebody chest bumps you walking in and out of the Circle K. And I say this because I saw it and it ended in a fatality. Hey, sorry, my bad, have a good day, whatever, and leave, get out of there. Don't be the dude that's, flipping the bird out the window or, yelling and screaming. Just let it go. It's just not worth it, avoiding that conflict. And then last case scenario should be that concealed carry item or any form, because that is literally what it's there for. Almost every state law is going to tell you that self-defense action, and was there is no other option available to you. And too often times you'll see it's generally guys that, puff up in the chest, start that shallow breathing, and then all of a sudden things go south. So it's pretty simple. Just avoid conflict, be safe, be a nice person out there, even if someone's being mean to you. It's amazing how fast when someone's yelling and screaming, you're just like, hey man, are you okay? And it just changes the demeanor. And then it gives you that time to breathe and that time to just get away from whatever scenario it is.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually just talking to another guy who was special forces in the Army, and he was saying that the majority of their training is de-escalation of certain, of a situation where you're able to communicate with people and not have to use that force. And that one advantage or tactical advantage that women have is obviously not our brute strength, but our ability to communicate, be able to identify, how somebody else is feeling, or, visual cues in their face, and be able to kind of like de-escalate a situation and avoid conflict, because that's not beneficial to us, right? Especially if I'm, you're significantly larger than I am. If you come at me angry, not a whole lot I can do, but I may be able to talk to you and kind of like lower that stress level.
And you'd be surprised. There's something called the OODA loop. So you observe, you orientate, you decide, and then you act, right? OODA, OODA. It's the second you throw somebody's OODA loop off, it's like they hit a brick wall. They're like, what? And it's, you go through training and go into the de-escalation thing. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that too. De-escalation is not a tactic. That's an outcome, because de-escalation could come at the verbal cue. It could come at the physical confrontation or the lethal confrontation. Obviously, the last one being the least optimal for everybody's sake, because there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, and there's a lot of preparation you need to be able to deal with that. But it's being able to appropriately de-escalate situation with the proper tactic is key, whether it's verbal, whether it's running away and getting out of there, because there is a time where it's like, this scenario is bad. We all know it. The hairs are standing up on the back of your neck. There's a million years of evolution in the human species at this point. And any victim of a crime will tell you in the interview after the fact, something was wrong. I knew it and I didn't listen to myself. There was something wrong the whole time. The whole time I knew something was wrong. And I stayed there because I wanted to be nice or whatever. There's a certain time when it's like, I'm running, and you just go, it's.
I love it. That's my tactic. Just run away.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to win a fight by 3 blocks than it is by 3 punches.
Right.
I like my teeth. I don't want facial reconstruction if I get in a bad fight. So sometimes the best option is to get out of there as fast as possible. We're not in a war around here with our fellow citizens. It's just some of our fellow citizens are not good people,
Right. Or just not mentally stable.
Correct. Yeah. Mental illness is off the charts.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So, you're married, and I don't know if your wife is like really into firearms or not, but like, I'm sure you've imparted some kind of wisdom to her, like to keep her safe when you're not there. Like, what would be like the number 1, 2, or 3 things that you would have told her just to make sure that she's safe when she's out and about?
The biggest thing is, and she doesn't have a problem with this because she hates her cell phone. Get your face out of your phone. Pay attention to you. Almost any attack, you're going to see the pre-attack indicators. You're going to see that sketchy dude hiding around the corner from 25, 50 meters away. But if you're down in your phone like this, you're going to walk right into it. So just paying attention to your observance. And I'm not saying you got to walk around threat level red, locked and loaded plate carriers and, whatever, kids in the backpack behind you so you can just run away with them.
There goes my weekend wardrobe. Thanks.
I know, right?
Appreciate that. Yeah. I've been trying to match that with the shoes all week, and now you've totally screwed that up.
You get a Gucci plate carrier and Louis Vuitton plates. And it's the big thing is just paying attention. Know your surroundings. The second thing would be know how to get there and know how to leave there in multiple different ways. Is there a front door, back door, side door? Which road do I take? You'd be surprised when an intersection gets shut down during a car accident. Somebody's like, how do I get home? And I'm like, I don't know. Where do you live? I live right there. I'm like, drive around the block, bro. And they literally don't know any other way but one dimensionally how to get into their neighborhood. And we laugh, but again, their navigation has told them this is how you get home. Or if you make a turn, you end up in the left turn of death scenario when your GPS doesn't work. And the third thing I would say is always be prepared for extreme violence, whether you're going to witness it or whether you're going to participate in it. And that's a weird thing to say. And it's the last thing you should do. But if the past 2 years, look at what went on around. I mean, you had weird things going on all over, homicide rates off the charts, 800% up in Portland, 60, 70, 80% up in other cities. I mean, you're rivaling Rio de Janeiro at this point in some of our cities. And it's crazy. So you have to have the mental forethought of, if I ever have to do or use violence, can I? And that's a question that you have to internalize. And it's not fun. I mean, people can talk tough about it, but if you've ever experienced violence like that or seen the bitter end of it or had to conduct that violence yourself, those are things that stick with you and they don't leave, and you have to deal with those. So those would be my biggest 3 things to tell people. And then the caveat, the fourth would be, again, just know how to get out of there. Just know how to get out of there.
Yeah, for sure. So it just, and I think I love that, because I think a lot of times when women think like, oh, I have to carry a gun and I'm terrified of it. It's like, if you are, but you still want protection, there are other ways of doing it, right? There's tasers, there's knives, there's batons, or, they have like those bracelets now that you can like emergency contact people, or even, apps on your phone.
You want to wait 15 minutes?
No, but they do have they have a phone app that you can like hold the button if you're like scared, and then it just like starts blaring like a car alarm, which may be a pattern interrupt. I don't know. I mean, I think, I mean, in your, like you've met quite a few bad people in your life. And I would imagine like if their intent was to do harm on a female, but all of a sudden they've got this loud noise and she's putting up a fuss and making like a scene, he's going to be less likely to kind of pursue that, more likely to just be like, I'm going to get out of here and find somebody that's easier.
It's entirely possible, but look at things that happen in broad daylight. Just scroll through social media, and as much as I hate to tell people to go look at all these bad things, there's a lot of possibilities out there. You can't live your life in fear. You have to go live life. You have to experience life. It's not a practice life. You get one shot at it. Okay. But at the same time, you need to understand that there are bad people out there. And if you're going to rely, as a law enforcement officer, I can tell you, if you're going to rely on law enforcement to save your life in a scenario like that, it's not going to end well. Probably you're going to, you make a phone call. That phone call is answered by a dispatcher. That dispatcher enters the information. It's dispatched to an officer who may be anywhere from 5 to 50 minutes away, depending on how your city or county or whatever is staffed, or if there's a critical incident. That's a long time to wait. I've been in fights where I don't want to wait 30 seconds, let alone 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. There's got to be some form of protection, whether it is, a phone app that goes crazy and starts doing all that stuff. But, at the same time, is that a physical deterrent?
No, it is not.
Yeah. No, if it's going off and you're running away, or, and there's other people around, that's huge. But again, I say, look at everybody that's stuck in their cell phone. Look at those couple of videos that people have done, mocking those abductions of children, where people just walk right by. They see a kid get snatched up, pulled in a dark alley, and they're just kind of like, "Oh, that was weird."
Right.
I mean, if you think somebody else, just another person, is gonna just bust in there and help you, that's just not what people are doing these days. Unfortunately, people are not helping their common person, and your nearest emergency services could be anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes away, even in a good response time.
Which is super scary.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, so what you hear you saying is like, yeah, the app is fine, but really like something to protect yourself, know how to get out of there, be prepared to use force if you have to. And that requires training, like not just knowing how to load the gun, but knowing how to draw your gun, like from a concealed position, like,
Yeah.
Even if you have your kid, like, okay, so what's your plan? Like if you pull a gun and you have your kid, like, are you going to hold them with one hand and fire with one hand, then practice that, or just kind of be mentally and emotionally prepared for whatever happens?
Yeah. And all the stuff we've talked about, so far is kind of that self-defense aspect, but you can't leave out the fact that it's just fun to go out there and either do competitions or experience shooting a gun. And a lot of people don't understand that until they actually go do it. Guns aren't just for lethal force. There's competitions, there's hunting, there's all kinds of stuff you do with them. So it's not just like this, you need a gun to protect yourself kind of thing. It's a cultural aspect still in the United States, and it's very much rural versus kind of urban, because you go to rural areas and it's like guns everywhere. And then you go to urban areas and it's like, oh my God, you guys own guns? It's like, well, yeah, I live in a high crime area. Why wouldn't I? Which is kind of funny. But I mean, some of the stuff that people, they just think, oh, guns, it's just for this, not one dimensional. There's just a ton of stuff out there. We still have Olympic games that involve shooting sports, shotguns and target sports. So it's not one dimensional, and it is a lot of fun as you've found out, to learn, experience that, progress through training, progress through skill level, and all of that fun, unfortunately, possibly one day could be used to defend your life or the life of another.
Yeah. And honestly, like if you really like love something and enjoy it, it translates, right? Like it's not like if you're like, hey, I love driving and I'm going to start taking like, racing classes or defensive driving. It's like, that's going to make you a better driver.
Yeah.
I mean,
we all
maybe
know
not
people
for like,
can't drive.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe we should all require some sort of like additional driving. I've seen some pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have too.
All the time. People, terrible drivers, terrible, especially after the roads were open 80 miles an hour on a surface street, pretty crazy.
I still remember, like, I think it was, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that. And you were still kind of like new to being a police officer. And you had a superior officer telling you that, he pulled some guy over for like thinking that he was a drunk driver. And apparently he was under the influence of a burrito supreme.
Burrito supreme. Yeah. He'd just gone through the drive-through and he ordered his Taco Bell and he's driving down the road eating it. And he's spilling his hot sauce all over him. And from then on, You knew that as if it wasn't drunk and they were eating, it was under the influence of a burrito supreme. So,
Fantastic. I'm going to give a
yeah,
lot of people the benefit of the doubt that there's a lot of burrito supremes being eaten on the
yeah,
roof.
absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Mike. I really appreciate it. If anybody wants to kind of check out what Mike is doing, he's on Instagram at Tactical Considerations. Mike, is there any other way that people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I have the web. Everything's at Tactical Considerations, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I'm on pretty much every social media forum that there is. The website, if you're interested in checking out any of the parts or gear or any of that stuff. And then, I mean, the thing that I would close with on any of that stuff is, do your research when you buy something. Look into legal protections. Look into stuff like USCCA, any of that stuff. And then, if you do decide to venture down that road and seek out training, your buddy or your uncle or your friend that thinks they know firearms oftentimes may not know how to teach or may not know how to handle them safely. And then if you do decide to get training, vet the instructor, find out who they are, do some research. And I'm not saying they got to be ex-military, law enforcement, Delta, ex-SEAL. There are a lot of many amazing civilian instructors out there, but you have to vet them.
What would they look for specifically in vetting them?
So you're going to want to look for that bio. A lot of it is, and see what their experience is, because there are people that are like, oh, I'm a certified instructor from this. Okay, so what have you taught anywhere large facility wise? Have you instructed with other people? There's generally going to be a way to see their bio and find out what their history is, because just because you've been in the military and law enforcement or security or working overseas doesn't mean you're going to be a great instructor. And just because you haven't done all that doesn't mean you won't be a great instructor either. But generally that bio is going to tell you a lot. And then all you have to do is a simple internet search and you'll be able to find out real quickly if that person's a fraud or not, or if it's just not in your lane, because there are instructors for your level. So somebody like you got the opportunity to work with Guardian, who can train from day one, scared to hold a gun, all the way up through advanced night vision, military style classes, because of the facilities they had access to. There's not a lot of people out there like that. So finding the instructor for your level, because a lot of people name classes basic firearms or basic pistol one. Well, is it basic pistol one for a tier one operator, or is it basic pistol one for Natalie, who's never held a firearm before? So figuring that out is generally pretty quick, because you just look at their website and it's going to have a description of the class. And it'll tell you need advanced weapons manipulation skills for pistol one, carbine one. It's like, that's not for new people, people that don't know how to break it down, clean it up, and put 50 rounds down range. So it's pretty easy to see who's kind of a cornball and who's not. It stands out pretty quick.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Really appreciate it. Okay. So guys, check Mike out at Tactical Considerations. Follow him on Instagram, on YouTube. You can check out all of his really cool videos. He is not a big, scary, anti-female guy. He is a very sweet and very interesting person. So definitely check it out. All right. All you tough mothers, get out there. Be not afraid. Great job. You made it to the end. You are one tough mother. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support the work that we do and keep the good lovin' coming, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. What's that? You're one of those crazy mother followers that wants more of this nonsense? You got it. Subscribe to the Moms Love Guns YouTube channel, follow us at Moms Love Guns on Instagram, and join our free private Facebook group to connect with other women just like you in an encouraging and non-judgmental community. If you want to share even more love, share your new favorite community with a friend or all of your friends, maybe even a few enemies, just to be safe. Get out there, overcome your fears, be not afraid. You have got this.